Hello, how are you? Hope you're good. Welcome to another one, hopefully short MECAWPILE review. If you're not familiar with the MECAWPILE rating system, I will link and suggest the video somewhere here. And today we're talking about Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I can't stop smiling because I really love this book. In a few sentences, this is a book following our main character Laszlo Strange, who is a librarian. He has lived from a very young age as a dreamer, specifically dreaming about the place that he truly believes exists and other people just think it's a fairy tale. Laszlo is what would you consider to be a very much an introvert, very selfless person, really good-hearted, who is basically surrounded by scholars and alchemists who are very power hungry and really competitive. This is about his journey and finding his dreams, but to me essentially this book is about lonely people who find a place of their dreams where they are less so. Laszlo is not the only main character that we're following, but I'm not gonna go too much into that because I don't know if we should, because as always this is very spoiler free. What I will say is that this book is very much a fantasy book and it includes creatures, as I mentioned, alchemy and gods and creatures in between. So I think without further ado, let's go ahead and start the MECAWPILE thing. Also, just a side note of how beautiful this book is. Like, this is one of the most stunning covers in existence, I will say. And yes, I did match my lipstick to the book. For the characters, I gave this an 8.5. Now, this might be a little bit surprising. I know this is not a standalone and it's gonna be either a series or a trilogy, but I felt like I got a little bit attached to some characters that just sort of disappear from the middle of the book. I understand that they probably don't play an important role in the first book, but at the same time I was sort of wanting just like a few snippets of them here and there. If you read this book, I'm specifically talking about the Climber Girl and some other crew people, but that being said, I couldn't nudge it a bit. Like, so some of the side characters were introduced in a way that it seemed like they're gonna be important. However, going further, it seemed like it was almost like a little bit of a waste of time because they just gone somewhere. But at the same time, I'm really glad that I met them because I want to know about them and I'm sure they're gonna come back later on in the series. And as I mentioned, there's another main character or like a point of view person and her name is Sarai, and I put a few sub points away from this because sometimes I would feel a little bit disconnected from that character, but it grew on me. It's fine. The reason the score is still really high is the fact that reading from Laszlo's perspective has been such a joy. I honestly was always looking for his point of view and I almost wish that maybe I understand why we had a few point of views, but I almost wish that Laszlo was the only one, because whenever I was reading from Laszlo's point of view, I was having a blast. I love his character so much. I just want to gather him into a hug. He's the most like selfless, extremely generous and just rational person that I just want to hug so badly. I really do. He's just amazing and I just wish everything good for my baby Laszlo. I say baby, I think he's like 21-year-old, which also is a nice change from a go to 16. For the atmosphere, I gave it an 8. I separated atmosphere from the writing style in this book review because usually they're very connected, but in this case I was just like, now this is a little bit misleading, but usually I didn't have any problems with atmosphere in this book, especially when it comes to seeing the city and dreams, because this book is like very heavy on dream side of things. Professional reviews by G. And everything was really vivid and I was very not exhausted following the atmosphere and how things look like. Yes, this book is a little bit descriptive and usually that's not kind of the thing that I would go for, but I had no problems because it was easy. Sometimes I feel like my problem with descriptions is not that they are too lengthy, which I mean they are, but the fact that sometimes authors, I feel like, try really hard to put everything in there and put it in like a try and be really wordy, which just personally doesn't sit well with me. I didn't have that problem here, saying that the writing style is very lyrical and poetic in my opinion, which is, again, let's not talk about that just yet. The only reason this is a 8 and not a 10 is the fact that I was buddy reading this with AJ, and the last like 100 pages or something like that, we were actually Skyping while reading, so we would read a chapter and then speak about it straight afterwards. And we realized that we imagined quite important parts of the book and descriptions of the thing entirely differently, and like entirely differently in a very sort of like important way. And so just the fact that we both got it so differently, I mean, it could be me, but I just felt like it wasn't that clear when it comes to the atmosphere around that subject. This is very vague, but I am being non-spoilery just for the clarity. I didn't put this in logic bit because once I understood what the thing was like, it didn't really hinder my logic side. Okay, writing style, absolutely a 10. Absolutely, hands down, the favorite part about this book was the writing style, and that is very unusual for me. I am such a character person. 9 times out of 10 is gonna be the characters that are my favorite part, but writing style in this book is so beautiful. Literally every sentence I was like wanting to hug this book. It was so beautiful. I don't know how Laini Taylor did it, but she did it so well. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not like too poetic, because me and poetry, like, nah. Beautiful. It's so beautiful, and usually if it's poetic and like lyrical like type of writing, it's gonna be like too try hard for me, but this was really easy to read in a most pleasurable way. Like, I am definitely gonna pick up her other series because I need more of that kind of writing in my life. It was such a pleasure to read. For the plot, I gave it a 9.5. I know that this book sometimes is considered really slow. Now, I am not the best person to judge the pace of books, because to me, I love slow books, but at the same time, I don't necessarily always recognize them as slow because I'm having fun and it doesn't feel slow to me. I also, thinking about this book, I also realized that people always use slow as a negative comment. To me, slow is a positive thing, so yes, maybe this book is a slow book, but that's a good thing to me, if you know what I mean. The pacing plot-wise was a little bit of an odd choice. I understand why some people would say that this is a slower book because it focuses more on like emotion, secrets, and gathering information, but not in the info dump way at all. Human connection and a lot of emotions basically, rather than like, you know, pew pew pew. But so that whole like main climax of the actual plot does happen very, very close to the end, so I understand why. And this is like a 500 plus pages or something, no? Yeah, it's like over 500 pages, so I understand why some people say that this is slow. For the intrigue, it was 9.5 again. I couldn't fault it much, but it also wasn't like a strong, I couldn't put it down, like I couldn't go to work because I had to read it or something like that. But at the same time, if there were parts where I was really just like not wanting to go to bed because I just want to read it a bit more, or like there would be times where I would take it with me to bed and just like, is this human? For the logic, I gave it a 9. The only reason, as I said, was slightly thing with the confusion. I did predict quite a few things, so it was good foreshadowing, although I was a little bit disappointed that I predicted it, but like just a little bit. Not like massively. That's not really in a logic part either way, but I didn't have big problems. There were some bits that I was like, wait, what? Or like, wouldn't it make more sense to do the other way? But like obviously doesn't fit the plot and stuff like that, so it was a 9. It's still a really good point, by the way. I don't like... A 9 is not a bad point at all. It's really good. I try to be quite sparse with my 10 points because I feel like it should mean something. Speaking of 10s, for enjoyment, it was definitely a 10. I had such a good time with this book. I love it. I love it. It literally became one of my favorites really, really quickly, and I enjoyed everything about it. I cannot wait till the next one is so beautiful, and I'm gonna read all of her other books now because, well, I'll try and read the first one and the other one. There's a lot of like focus on bugs, specifically moths. So if that triggers you, then maybe not this book. But yeah, if you have a fear of moths, then maybe don't read it. But if you don't have like an absolute phobia of moths, then read this book because it's really good. Do not be intimidated by the length of it. Take your time with it as well, but it's really enjoyable, and I really do think that a lot of people would enjoy this as well if you have a similar taste in books like I do. To sum it up, it came to 64.5 points, and that's divided by all 7 categories. It's 9.2, which means it's a 5-star. It's such a good book. Seriously, have I said that enough? I think I have said that enough now. What were your thoughts on this book if you read it? If you haven't, do you plan on it? Let me know down below in the comments. Keep it spoiler free, but let me know things. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!